Hey everybody, welcome to the Ashleigh Guy podcast. Today, in our quarantine state, we get to interview Ashleigh Gibson. Not only does she have IBD and other health issues, she just won Miss Oklahoma International 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. And she does a lot drawing awareness to people with IBD and does a number of other things, but she is super talented, very sweet, incredibly outgoing, and I'm anxious to hear her story. So we're going to reach out to her. How many kids do you have?
I have 2.
2? How old are they? How's your day been going? All right?
Living the quarantine dream over here. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, mine's been stupid. I was at work for a little while, and then I took my car out, so I left my house to go to the office, and I'm driving, and we got a mandatory shutdown here in Wichita, and so as I'm driving, I pass the oil change place, and my light's been on in my car for a while, so I'm like, I'm just gonna pull in there and drop my car off. So I drop my car off, and they end up talking me into doing a couple other things, so I get those done. Well, then I go and I get in after they're all done to leave, and the second I get in my car, it's like shaking like tremors. Like it just shakes while it's in idle, while it's in park, while you're driving. And so then I was driving around on it and had a couple of meetings, and then I was like, I better swing in there. So I swing in there on my way home from work, and it was like time was crunching. It was like 3:15 or so, and I was like, you guys got to hurry up and check this out, and I can't leave it. I got to get back home. And so anyways, I rushed home, and that's when I texted you and was able to kind of get started. So I've been kind of running around like crazy till that down.
Oh, you're fine. We are running around like crazy too.
Oh, yeah.
We have everything's shut down here, but we have remote learning going on with the kids.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. So they go to private school. And the oldest one's in 4th grade, and there's about 4 to 5 hours a day of learning stuff that they want them to do. And so I'm still trying to work full-time remotely from my house.
Yeah.
And Jeff, my husband, is working full-time remotely. And so still trying to do 2 kids remote learning and do 2 full-time jobs all at the same time.
How's that going? Are you winging it?
It's nuts. It's insane, but we're getting most of it done.
Yeah.
We are currently outside. I engineered a water slide out of our playgrounds and our kiddie pool or blow up pool that we have and the hose. And so we're making it happen.
Jeez, that's awesome. Everybody seems like we're all trying to figure it out. I mean, my wife, she just kind of turned the house, and she segmented it into some time frames. And our kids, they have stuff, but we haven't been given their assignments. They haven't told us what all they want us to do and how to do it, and they don't have anything formally set up. So April's got a bunch of workbooks, and she just kind of runs class, and then they've been outside doing some at-home learning, picking up leaves and picking up sticks and cleaning up the backyard and stuff. So it's been pretty good. And it's like 78 degrees here.
78? Yeah. Oh, we're dying here.
You said it's
91.
90? Jeez.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So I want to know, first off, how, I know with COVID-19 stuff, everything's kind of locked down in your home, but, since you won Miss Oklahoma International, immediately following that, what are you doing? A lot of video conference stuff for that, or is that all put on hold now too, or what?
So most of it's on hold. The week after I won, I was on the news. I'm on the local news stations here on Channel 5. And so that was really cool. I got to do an interview with that. And then I had a ton of things booked, probably one a week. I was going to MC a gala, and I was walking a fashion show and all these things. And those are all on hold right now. And so I have the podcast with you, and then I have a video appearance, I guess, where I'm going to read a book. I'm going to record myself reading a book And then part of my platform is I'm releasing a children's book here in probably a couple of weeks now, since I have a lot more time to work on it because I'm at home. But I'm releasing a children's book, so I'll probably do an appearance for that and read that. And then we're going to try to do some educational materials with that. And that way kids will have a little bit more, like, some activities, and I can either email them to their parents or, you know, print them off and snail mail them to them or whatever.
Yeah. Very cool. Can you tell me a little bit about the children's book, or not yet?
I can tell you a little bit about it. So yeah, there's a little lag. I think I can tell there's, like, between our conversations, there's a little bit of lag time, but that's all right. So we're looking at a children's book, and it's centered around a cow. And I have a story about how, you know, cows usually are born with 4 compartments in their stomach. And this young cow was born different. She was only born with 1 compartment in her stomach. And so it changes the way she eats, the things she has to eat, the amount of time that she has to take to rest for her body. She has to go to the doctor more often. Then it talks about a lot of things that she goes through and she does as a kid are the same as other cows. But she talks about her differences, and she talks about what she has to go through to, you know, educate other people and also kind of empower them to be able to embrace their differences and talk about them, and we don't all have to be the same.
What's the main character's name? The main cow.
We don't have a name yet, so I've been going through a couple names. They all start with G. And so we decided on a female cow, Gibson, or I don't know. No name has really stuck with me yet, but once I see the illustrations, I'm sure the name will kind of appear.
Yeah. Is that how you named your kids? when you saw your face, it came to you?
Actually, no. Well, my youngest one, yeah. My youngest one, we had a boy name picked, and we were convinced that she was going to be a boy, so we had the name Jackson picked. And we went in for the ultrasound. They said she was going to be a girl, and we were like, oh, okay.
That's hilarious. And what'd you end up naming her?
Scarlet. So I have Scotland and Scarlet.
Yeah.
Which is really cute also, but it gets in the way with yelling at them.
Yeah.
So it was cute with the matching names until I decided that you have to yell or discipline them, and then it gets confusing, and I call everybody the wrong names. And
yeah.
So.
All right. So can you hear me okay, Ashleigh?
Yeah, every once in a while you pixelate out a little bit.
Okay. All right. So can you tell me a little bit about, you know, when you were what you were diagnosed with, and when, and kind of what was going on in your world around that time? How old were you, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so it was 5 years ago. I had just had my youngest daughter, and I was having all kinds of problems and ended up going to the ER 2 or 3 times. Ended up testing positive for C. diff. And I went and got 2 rounds of antibiotics for that and a bacterial transplant, and it was crazy. And so after that, I ended up going to a GI doctor just for follow-up, and they were like, oh, you're just having complications from C. diff. And I was like, okay. So a couple years went on, and they didn't really get any better. And I went to my primary care physician, and she was like, oh, you need to cut out dairy. Okay. So I cut out dairy. And yeah, you're laughing. That's what we all go through. So I cut out dairy, and I changed my eating, and I started taking, you know, the anti-inflammatories and all that, whatever. And then I went to my doctor. It was about, I think, a year ago, 6 months to a year ago. And I was like, look, there's something going on. Like, I this isn't just, you don't have 5 years of complications from C. diff, and it doesn't change completely how you eat and how you process food. And I cut out dairy, but I still, like, even with no dairy, I'm still getting bloated and having pain and like colon pain. She was like, oh, let's give you this antispasmodic, that'll help. No, that didn't do it. And she was like, okay, let's do small intestine bacterial overgrowth breath test. And I was like, okay. So they gave me an antibiotic for that. And we went through, and finally I got connected with another GI doctor a few months ago. And his NP, his nurse practitioner, was like, I'm pretty sure you have inflammatory bowel disorder, inflammatory bowel disease. And I was like, okay. And she was like, let's do a CT scan, let's do a colonoscopy. And I was like, okay. So I scheduled a colonoscopy. It turns out my insurance isn't going to cover it. And so at that point in time, my daughter was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder too. So it was going to be like $3,000 cash for my colonoscopy. And I was like, okay. And we were spending $1,000 or so a month on her autoimmune disorder. And so I paused it and I was like, I can't afford a colonoscopy right now. So at this point, I have indeterminate. They're pretty sure it's Crohn's because I guess most of my symptoms are colon centered. Most of the inflammation is in my colon, what they suspect. And so I guess after the colonoscopy, they'll figure out where the inflammation is and make a decision. But they were leaning toward Crohn's. So yeah.
You're kind of a pincushion like all of us. Everybody kind of goes through all this, it's kind of, there's a learning curve for everyone who kind of goes through this in regards to realizing that our doctors are all kind of winging it too. And they're trying to figure out a little bit what's going on and how our body works, and maybe this will work and maybe that'll work. And they're just plugging along, and you just kind of, okay, whatever.
Yeah, when I'm back, so they want to do the colonoscopy, and she was like, if we do the colonoscopy, we can go through our options. We can do Humira, we can do Remicade. And I was like, I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
So what do I have? What options do I have? She was like, I don't know. So I really cut down my eating, and I've really tightened up on, I eat like a really healthy diet. I don't have high fructose corn syrup, and we eat a low carb, high protein diet. I don't eat any fruit. I eat a few vegetables, mostly that I know are safe, not really the high fiber ones, because those tend to give me grief. Yeah. And then I do an exercise program and like yoga and stretching, kickboxing, and do a weight program. And so it tends to keep control, but every once in a while I have a mishap. Like last night, something I ate that I have no idea what it was, gave me problems, and it's carrying over into today. And usually my problems last for about 2 days-ish. Yeah. For the most part, I don't have symptoms. I have them pretty under control with my diet and things. But like last night, I ate something, I drank something, I don't know. I have no idea what it was, but I'm bloated up like I am 9 months pregnant, and that'll last for about 2 days. And the colon pain.
How is dealing with that in the pageant world? I mean, over the last handful of weeks, I mean, you got a lot of stress in regards to preparing for competition. There's a lot of stress in regards to dealing with your home life, things going on at home with your kids, all this COVID-19 crap, and then also dealing with the pageant and dealing with all that stuff. So how do you manage and handle it in that world?
I've given up. I try to ask for help. If you ask my husband, I'm not good at asking for help at all. But it's kind of, you just be able to know. Yeah. But it's kind of, having IBD and then having my daughter diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder is just kind of taking it down to where I have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And I can't do it all myself anymore. So that's made it a lot better. And it's also taken out my expectations of being able to do all of this and be normal and be perfect. So like at the pageant, I was just straight up with them, all the food and stuff. I was like, this is what's offered for dinner, but I can't eat that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in physical pain if I eat that. And so I will go get something myself later. And, I know what foods are safe for me, like 99% of the time. And so I'll go do that. And I'm really just genuine with them. I was genuine with the judges about, this is what I go through and these are what problems I have. And I may or may not have them here in the interview or on stage. We'll see.
How has that helped you grow just as a person? How have you noticed that dealing with this has helped you grow in being as a person, as a mom, and as a wife?
It's really, it's helped me become more genuine, I think, because I can't hide it. And doing pageants, I put a lot of pressure on myself to kind of fit into the pageant mold, but it was really when I kind of grasped this, I took it and I just said, this is what my platform is. This is what I'm doing. This is who I am. I have to rest more than normal people. I can't eat the stuff normal people do. I have like a schedule I have to be on. If I don't get sleep at night, I'm done. My immune system doesn't even attempt to show up for anything. I'll get strep or whatever's going around, coronavirus.
Right.
But yeah, when I just really embraced it and was like, this is who I am and this is genuine me, I think that's what IBD did for me. And also the community is crazy and supportive and just so good.
There's a whole lot of people out there dealing with this stuff that are really, really, they're advocates in ways that I can't be. And I love that there's so many people out there talking about it. Because ever since I was dealing with this stuff when I was little, it was always taboo, and it still is. But it's, in a way, social media has allowed us to really kind of have our own little forum for each other, where we can kind of help each other and deal with this stuff and not feel so alone. It's the loneliness when you aren't talking to people about it and sharing your story that weighs on you the most, really.
Yeah, and I think, so when I started with this platform, there was actually another pageant queen that said to me, you can't have that platform. She was like, you can't go gracefully talk about poop in pageants. And I was like, well, I'm going to do it. So we'll see. This is me. This is what happens. And I've got a crown, and I'm going to Mrs. International pageant in July, hopefully. And hopefully I'll be able to carry on my message. And
how did you get how'd you get involved in the awareness stuff that you're working on in regards to you have guts, and then you do a number of other things, but did it just happen overnight, or how did you come to the point where you were like, you know what, I'm just going to own this and I'm going to take it in this direction? Tell me about how that all took place.
Yeah. So there's 3 points to my platform, and it's empowerment, advocacy, and education. Mm-hmm. The empowerment and education part came from before I was actually diagnosed with IBD. I was still having problems, and a coworker of mine from Goodwill International, her daughter has intestinal motility disorder. And so she was, I think, 10 when she was diagnosed with intestinal motility disorder. And we had a lot of the same symptoms, a lot of the same things going on. And so I would talk to my coworker, and then I ended up talking to her daughter, Keelan, about what goes on. And I was like, look, this is what goes on. This is what happens behind the scenes. And at that point, I have a background in pageant production. So I did lighting and sound, stage design, stage management for pageants. And so I had done 2 pageants, and under the platform of youth mentoring, which is also close to my heart. But I had done 2 pageants under that platform, and I just wasn't really, it was good. I'm passionate about it. But I was talking to Keelan one day. She was like, "You have to talk about this at the pageant. You're like a poop princess." And I was like, "Okay." And so we started talking about it. She was like, "You're the one that convinced me to talk to other people about what's going on with me and not try to hide it." And when I started talking to my friends about it, they were more accepting of it. And I found out that some other kids in my school have, digestive problems also. And another kid has autoimmune disorder. And so you really helped me see that I could talk about it to people. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. And when I was going to quit pageants, so for a while I was like, I'm not going to really do pageants. I have a lot of things going on in my life. And she was the one that was like, you have to do it. You have to do one more. This has to be your platform. And I was like, okay, I'll do it for you under this platform. We got together and decided it was going to be called Get Gutsy. And because it takes guts to live with a intestinal disorder or a digestive disease. And we really, landed on that. And then the advocacy came from just my personal experience. Step therapy sucked.
Yeah.
And between myself and my daughter, we were just unloading thousands of dollars to try to go through, let's try this med, and we have to try this med next, and we have to go to the doctor this many times in this many months, and we know this doesn't work, and there's only a 2% chance, but you have to try it.
Yeah.
And I, it just made me mad.
Yeah.
And so we actually got step therapy reform, an exception in place in the state of Oklahoma that went into effect last month, where you can apply with your insurance for an exception for step therapy, and your insurance can grant you an exception for chronic illness to where you can bypass step therapy. Thank goodness.
Bravo.
So next we were working on Arizona, and I joined a step therapy reform group because once we got past here, we were the 13th state to pass it, step therapy reform. And I just jumped on board with them, and I was like, this is what works for us. If you guys need me to talk about, what works for us and how much of a drain it was on our family, because we're in a circumstance where we have a lot of resources our families don't. So we could pull it off, but I can't imagine if we were in another situation, especially right now, I wouldn't have been able to get myself help or my daughter help.
Right. So how has having IBD helped you in regards to working with the youth? How has it opened your eyes a little bit in regards to some of the kids and people that you influence and spend time around in that area of your life?
We talk about invisible illness a lot, and we talk about adversity. So whether your adversity is a chronic illness or your upbringing or your financial situation, most people have some form of adversity that they have to overcome in their lives. And so with the youth, I mostly work with juvenile offenders and those at risk of offending. I had a little bit of a rough background. It was my own choice. I rebelled against my parents and didn't make the best choices when I was a kid. Yeah. And so I like to talk to teenagers about how I turned my life around and what ended up saving me from that adversity in my life, which for me, it was getting into college. I ended up getting a full scholarship to college and paid my own way. I was the first one in my family to go to college and get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. So that was huge for me. And I also talk about how adversity doesn't stop just because you're an adult or you have a full-time job or you're educated. There's still different types of adversity that you come up against. It's just learning to, have that strength and having a support system and being able to talk about it and talk through it and that kind of thing that really makes you stronger in the long run. Yeah.
And is your husband in dealing with this, have you guys been able to kind of see your relationship kind of bond a little tighter in regards to you? It's really beautiful, especially as married couples, being able to see your spouse and their selflessness and helping us when we can't help ourselves. And so how has that opened your eyes in regards to a good, healthy relationship with our spouse and being open about all this stuff? How has that helped your communication, or what barriers have you kind of run into?
Yeah, well, the first thing was when I had C. diff, I had to be quarantined. I had to self-quarantine for like 12 days. We had a brand new baby, and my husband was working full time, and we had your older daughter and a brand new baby, and I had C. diff, and we didn't know if she was going to catch it or our other kid was going to catch it. And so I had to really depend on him to help through that. But once you go through that kind of thing, and if you have IBD, there's not much past having a child and having a digestive disorder that really solidifies the fact that your spouse loves you and will stay with you through anything. Yeah. So that was just solid. Oh yeah, he said in the middle of that, I gave birth when she was 3 weeks old. I had an emergency appendectomy, and then I had C. diff like 6 weeks after that.
Yeah.
And so it was really just like a solid, he must love me. So I was down for quite a while, but it's helped us grow, I think, because I've always been the one that I will drive myself into the ground. Like, I will do everything and I won't say anything about it. I will do everything. I won't ask for help, and I'll drive myself into the ground. Mm-hmm. And so it's made me, I know, start communicating and have to communicate with him more because I need help.
Yeah.
And sometimes my body just takes me down, right, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I have to swallow that pride and be like, hey, can you help? This is what's going on with me right now. And so we've gotten a lot better at communicating. I'm always upfront. We did go to counseling. Yeah. And we still go to counseling, couples counseling, because it's hard, especially not just for myself, but having a kiddo too with a chronic illness. Right. It's hard on relationships.
That's exactly right. Good for you. That's awesome. What was if you haven't talked to anybody, then maybe this is irrelevant, but what's some of the best advice you've gotten, whether it's from doctors or a friend or someone that you saw on social media or whatever, in regards to dealing with IBD?
I would say there's two. So a lady that was she was the mom of a kid I worked with. I run a education nonprofit. It's the nonprofit arm of a VOTech or Career Tech. Okay. And so her son was one of the students there, and I got to be friends with her. And she had some digestive problems. And so we were talking about one day, and she was like, well, I tried this. And I was like, okay, good for you. Yeah. And she finally looked at me and she goes, it doesn't really matter what I say. You just have to figure out what's best for you and what's going to work for you, no matter if it comes from a holistic person, the internet, a doctor. She was like, you really just have to do what's best for you. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's the most solid advice that anybody's ever given me. Yeah. So.
And what's amazing about the simplicity, I might start cutting out, it looks like, but the simplicity of that advice is that usually we're so trained to go to our doctor and ask for help, right? It's like with anything else, when you don't know something about it, you go to the doctor, you go to the accountant, you go to the professional to come into your world and help. And you realize, wow, I'm a little bit more of an expert at my own body than most of these people, and we end up having to gather information and make really good decisions for ourselves because the doctors, and as much as they care and are running a practice, are really just kind of plugging along and trying this and seeing what works based on their experience.
Yeah, because I've been to switch insurance in the middle of this, and I had about 3 gastrointestinal specialists, and between the 3 of them, every single one of them, I had to be like, yes, I need you, but also I've been living with this body for 30 And so there's some things that I know about this body that you may not have learned.
Right.
I understand there are some things about my body that you probably know that I don't know because I don't have a medical degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we just have to trust ourselves and this is going to be helpful and which advice is not going to be helpful.
So on top of, you just got to do what's best for you and your body, what advice do you find yourself giving other people, younger versions of yourself, maybe in some of the youth, that can kind of help them with a lot of this?
It is really fun to eat all the crap and live your life at 100 miles an hour, but it will catch up with you. And the best advice is to take care of yourself now when you're young, because then it's a habit, it's a lifestyle, and you learn it when you're young, and then you don't have to try to play catch up later in life.
Yeah. It's like brushing your teeth. Mm-hmm. You either ingrain that habit, and over time you realize this has really paid off. I have a very healthy mouth. My teeth are clean and they've stayed white and I have good habits, or you don't and they don't. And you don't realize it until it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just, it's everything. The food, the stress, the overcommitting yourself and everything. When I talk to 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and I'm like, listen, you have to learn this now before you go to college, before you get a career, before you get a family. You need to learn where your boundaries are. Yeah. And how to take care of yourself first.
Do you have any go-to, what kind of music do you listen to? Do you have a couple of go-to songs that kind of help you when you're down, when your days are tough and you got a bunch of crap lined up and you got a bunch of crap blocked up that just kind of helps you get over it and get on down the road? Or are you pretty well self-motivated?
No, I have a music playlist, and I love podcasts. I love true crime podcasts. Yeah. I'm a true crime junkie, that's for sure. So, but I have a playlist of music that, Billy Ocean, Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. There's just a bunch of other like really cheesy, big Sean, like Sean Kingston stuff. Mm-hmm. Anything from the early 2000s. I have a decent amount of, rap and stuff like that. Yeah, I have a playlist. It's called, I think it's supposed to be called Jams with a Z because I'm cheesy like that.
That's original. I think we all have one that says Jams, and then you've got Summer Jams, and then you've got Date Night Prep Playlist, and then you just kind of move on down.
Kids Jams.
All right, so I got just a couple more questions, Ashleigh, and so what is, for you, what's been the hardest and worst side effect of your health problems, hardest to deal with, and the most annoying and frustrating?
Oh my God, the bloating and the colon pain. Mm-hmm. So I get insane colon pain and bloating, and it's just, it's terrible. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. My pants don't fit. Yeah. I've gotten really creative with work outfits.
You're always wearing maternity jeans just in case you decide to eat dessert.
Yeah. I'm like, how many times can I fake a professional outfit with leggings?
Right. Oh, that's so funny. And besides the bloating, what would be the weirdest? What's the strangest or most awkward side effect in having to deal with all of this? That's the hardest, but what's
the strangest or most awkward?
Yeah.
The amount of times that I have to use the bathroom, and where I'm office in an office area, because I'm embedded in a school. Yeah. So you walk through a door to a lobby, and then behind the lobby are all the offices in a horse shape. Yeah. So I have to walk by at least 4 people and the 2 receptionists in the front lobby, and walk through the entrance to get to the bathroom because it's not even close. And it's a quiet office. everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows me. And so finally having to be like, this is what's going on. This is why I go to the bathroom so often.
Hey, y'all, as you go through every time.
Hey, I'm walking through again. Don't mind me.
I drink a lot of water, I promise.
I just pee a lot.
Yeah. No, that's the truth, isn't it? Well, let me ask you this. So is your bathroom there at least comfortable and pretty darn clean, and it's like a little homestead for you, or no?
For the most part it is, but so my office area is attached to a building that's full of the classrooms for short-term and adult learning classrooms. So some days there is nobody in there and it's cool and I can do whatever. Some days it is packed with classes and there's people. And so I always try my best to, I know mostly when their breaks are. And so I can kind of try to like dodge around and at least maybe force myself to go to the bathroom like right before their break and hope that but sometimes I've just given up. I'm like, I know there's 120 participants in here and I'm just tired today and I'm sorry.
You're that girl.
Yeah. Sorry, student.
So where do you see what you're doing where would you like to see what you're doing in the next 2 years? Where would you like to see yourself in that short period of time? I mean, we look back and time flies, but where are you aiming for in the kind of short future in the next year or two? What's your biggest goal right now?
Well, hopefully I'll have a Mrs. International crown and be able to share the Get Gutsy platform internationally. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I think overall, I want people to know that Get Gutsy is a thing, and I want more people to be able to talk about it and not be afraid of having the guts to tell your story. And so I think that in 2 years, that's my main thing, is that the more people that have the guts to be able to say, you know what, I have this chronic illness, but I can do this anyway, or this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, and really embrace themselves. I think that's what I'd like to see in 2 years. And also, I really, really want more states to reform step therapy. If we could do that nationally, that'd just be awesome.
Yeah. That's awesome. Where can our listeners find you? What's the number 1 or 2 places where they can go and find you?
So my website is getgutsy.org. And then on Instagram, I'm at the Ashleigh Gibson.
The Ashleigh Gibson, which I will post when I post this, and I will post your website as well. And can you spell Gutsy? Is that G-U-T-S-Y, or is it Z-Y? Is that right? S-Y?
G-U-T-S-Y.
S-Y, okay. Okay, well, very cool. Ashleigh, thank you very much for doing this. I'm sorry it took us so long to hook up, but that's just kind of the way that life's been for everybody right now since COVID took over.
I'm sorry it took us so long as well. I mean, kind of thank goodness for this quarantine, because the quarantine has kind of slowed me down and our lives down. So I'm going to give that one a little bit of a silver lining, but I'm just glad we could connect.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Tell your husband thank you for letting me steal you for 40 minutes while he holds down the fort. I really appreciate it, and I know how stressful that can be. So thank you very much. And I look forward to having this posted and people getting to go to your website and see what you're all about and keep on passing the word and sharing our stories. Very cool, Ashleigh. Thank you very much. And one last thing. Do you have one last thing you want to share or kind of tell your listeners or people that follow you?
Okay, July 24th and 25th in Kingsport, Tennessee is Mrs. International. So you can watch online and watch and see if I make it to the top, because I'm hoping I will.
Very cool. Well, good luck and keep stomping on, and we'll all kind of keep quarantining, and thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks, Ashleigh.
All right. Thanks, Austin.
Thanks.
Bye.